We have the largest and most experienced team of JDE consultants in the Australia and New Zealand region, and our team are widely regarded not just for their exceptional level of skill, but also for their integrity. We deliver JD Edwards support, code currency services for 9.2 and managed services. As well, of course, we also do JDE implementations, upgrades, development and integrations. The other thing that we do is train people. So we can teach your team how to use the orchestrator for themselves to a level of confidence and proficiency so that they can work on your internal projects. Today's session is all about running JD Edwards on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So I'm just going to go through your presenters for today. So we've got Thiele. Anne is Ndevr's JD Edwards functional guru. She's going to give you the rundown on the game-changing enhancements that are now available to you. As always, there will be a few ideas that you can probably apply for yourself. Followed by Kalpesh Shah. Kalpesh is Oracle's JDE functional guru, and he will be covering details about the latest in 9.2.5. Kalpesh will be followed by Umang Varma. Umang heads up the Oracle Asia-Pac Applications on Cloud Architect team and will be going into some of the technical details of OCI and the OCI rewards program. And lastly, our own Barry. Barry is Ndevr's CNC and JD Edwards technical expert, and he's going to explain why you'd make the move to OCI and will give us the insight on what's really involved in making the shift. Now, I'd just like to point out I got through all of that without saying the L word or the C word, but before I run and ruin things with more terrible one-liners, I'm just going to pass our controls over to Anne. There you go, Anne.
Thanks, Sasha. Today, what I'm going to do is introduce you to some of the features that have been delivered by Oracle, both in the tools and in the applications. I'll talk about some of the new features in Orchestrator. I'm certainly not going to cover all of the features. Instead, I've picked out some that I think are potentially game changers. I'll take a look at some of the features delivered in recent times, not necessarily in the latest release, but in recent times, and how these features can be used to streamline your financial close. Then I've picked out a few of the application enhancements to highlight. The Assertion Framework functionality allows you to specify the values that you expect to be produced by an orchestration and then validate the data that the orchestration produces against those values that you're expecting. For example, you might assert that a value is expected to be within a certain range or possibly a specific value. The assertions can be set up on each step in the orchestration. So, for example, in this example here, I have defined assertions against this data request to get the batch number. And so you'll see down here that I've set up the assertion here. So I'm saying when you run that, with the output from that data request or that data browser, I would like the count, in other words, the number of lines that it's returning, to be equal to whatever I have specified in this input called expected number of lines. So that could have been a fixed, I could have said I actually always wanted to be 1, or I always wanted to be 20, or I wanted to be between 1 and 5, all that sort of thing. But I've decided just to specify it against the input parameter. Right. So when I run the orchestration, I set the evaluate assertions, and then I also set the this parameter expected number of lines to 1. So when it ran, it said, oh yes, I've got the status coming back as okay, and in the detail I can see that it was expecting a row count of 1, and a row count of 1 is what I got. So simple as that, I can actually see I can actually validate that the results are exactly what I want them to be. I've set up just one assertion on one of the steps in the orchestrator, but you can set up multiple assertions, and they can be on each and every step within the orchestration as well. So you can really thoroughly check the output of your orchestration. So this You can save these assertions as well so that you've got them documented so that you know what the results were of your test. So this is now the start. First of all, it helps us to test our orchestrations, but it also is the start for automating testing in general of JD Edwards. This enhancement, the REST file variables, allows the orchestration designer to use variables in connectors. So you would feed the file name in as a variable instead of it as a static file name. You can actually have the variable going through. So for example, and it works on receive or send of files. So when you're receiving or sending files. So for example, if you wanted to run a report, it's via an orchestration, for example, you run the report in JD Edwards in the orchestration, and then that report name is available for you to feed into the connector so that you can then send that report to a third party, for example. Or maybe you receive files for, like, perhaps bank files, bank statement files from the bank, and these files maybe have a date appended to them. So now what you can do is you could set up a little custom Groovy where you build the file name, append the date at the end, for example, and feed that in so that you can dynamically update the date every day on the file. There's a couple of ways that you can use this variable. It's a small thing, but it shows how the power of the orchestrator is growing and growing with every single new release that comes out from Oracle. Every new update. Some new features in JD Edwards, as well as some features that have been around for a while, can be used to facilitate a faster financial close. For example, the role-based pages, those UX1 role-based pages, they've got graphs on them that can highlight key indicators for your financial controller, for example. They've also got watch lists on them where you can see how many batches are still waiting to be posted, for example. It's one of the examples, so that you can keep an eye on all those things that affect the closing of your period or your quarter or your year end or whatever. Also, Oracle have delivered some pre-configured notifications, like, for instance, the unposted batches, so that you can actually get an email now to say there are so many batches that are unposted, and then follow up on that to try and have a faster and a smoother financial close. You could also use orchestrations and notifications to streamline the workflow. The financial close timetable can be sent automatically to everybody involved, and then at each step, a notification can be sent out. And for example, you could use, as soon as AP and AR are closed, you could have an orchestration that runs the trial balance and emails that trial balance to the financial controller, who can then start looking, for example, at his accruals or allocations and so on. There's also interactive reconciliations, but I just wanted to highlight the interactive integrity reports. So you know all those integrity reports that we already run in batch. They run maybe once a week, once a month, the companies in, or once a day, companies in balance, intercompany accounts in balance, and so on and so forth. Well, they're all available interactively now. So they run very fast, they're easy to run, and you can actually try and resolve the problems, if you have any, from the interactive application. But apart from that, you can also build watch lists and notifications over those interactive applications, so that, for example, if a company goes out of balance, or if there's a problem with the intercompanies, or there's a batch to transaction problem, you can be notified immediately. You don't have to wait for that report to run in batch all the time. You can immediately be notified of it and take proactive action for it. All these things can help with your month end, or your period end. But Kalpesh will discuss this also a little bit further, a little bit more later on in the presentation. I like this one. It's been a long time coming, the activity rules for manufacturing. So very similar to the activity rules for procurement. The activity rules for manufacturing can be set up so that you have a certain flow that goes through, and the workflow has to be adhered to on your work orders. Also, you can set it so that only certain actions are allowed at certain stages of the work order. With that, also in line, similar to what we've got in purchasing and have had forever, Oracle have delivered a work order ledger so that you can now see the history of the work order and the stages that it's gone through. On the procurement side, there are two small, but I think very nice, significant in some cases, enhancements that have been given. The one is the requested date. So you can set the purchasing that so that if the requested date falls on a non-working day, a Sunday or a public holiday or whatever, it can automatically be pushed over to the next work day. And the other one is the simplified posting of the GL batch. This is, you know, you can post the GL batches from purchase order receipts, but this has been simplified so that the users no longer have to confirm that posting of the batch on the print selection screen. That printer selection form doesn't appear anymore. The batch is automatically then posted, so that people don't cancel out of there, and then that causes integrities. You know, if you had used this feature, you'll know that on that printer selection, people tend to hit cancel instead of hitting OK. And then, of course, the batch doesn't post automatically, and that means that your commitments on your procurement are not up to date and they're not accurate. This way, this prevents that, and you don't have one less click because you don't have to press OK on the printer selection screen. Any of you who have used the job status inquiry will recognize this project status inquiry application. It is the job status inquiry, but it is on steroids. So, for example, if you know the job status inquiry, you'll recognize this. You've got the different columns that you can set up for your project status, the inquiry. You can have different column layouts. You can decide whether you want to look at a specific job or a whole project. You can have your different summarization types. Looks very much like the job status inquiry in a lot of ways, but with the project status inquiry, you can view your project in a chart form. So you can have a nice graphical view of your project. Also, you can set up traffic lights on your different columns so that you can get a quick view of how your project is looking. As part of the financials, I think it was 9.2 base, or maybe, I don't know, but very early on in 9.2, Oracle introduced the joint venture, and every update since the beginning, since the first introduction, they've been adding to the joint venture module until it's become very comprehensive. So at this stage, you can do everything you need to from a joint venture point of view within JD Edwards, defining your division of interest, through distributing the revenue and expenses, through to cash calls, invoicing of expenses, payments of revenue, and even the reporting to your joint venture partners. All available now in the little joint venture module that JD Edwards has delivered. And the nice thing about it is that it comes as part of your financials. So if you're licensed for financials, you're automatically licensed for joint venture. There's no extra cost. And I think you are all licensed for financials. So a very nice little module that you can implement anytime, free of, well, not free of charge, but as part of the financials. So those are the things that I wanted to highlight today. And I just want to draw your attention because I've gone through them very briefly, first of all, and I certainly haven't gone through all the enhancements. All the enhancements and all the details can be found on learnjde.com. Please go there. It's a wonderful resource, very, very handy to take a look around there. Everything you want to know about JDE is on there, not only enhancements, but existing stuff, what's coming, everything is in learnjde.com. Pay a visit, you won't be sorry. And then some of these features, like the joint ventures, like the project status inquiry, and the other things that I've covered, Oracle actually has videos on these features, and Sasha has put them together and made them available to you via this link here, tiny.1/JDE demos. Go and have a look there, and you'll get a little bit more insight into the things that I've been talking about there. So that's all from me. I'm going to hand over to Kalpesh, and he's going to give you a little bit more insight into OCI. Kalpesh, over to you.
Thank you, Anne. Morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. My name is Kalpesh, and I'm part of the pre-sales JD Edwards Oracle community. I look after JPAC, and I'm here to present you and give you some feedback on honest in terms of where 9.2 is progressing, a roadmap in terms of an application. We have over 140 customers on the OCI, so that's something which is going strong, and we continue to build on that as we move along. From a 9.2 perspective, from a roadmap perspective, there has been a continuous change and innovation that Oracle is doing to make the product optimized from an application layer, from a technical architecture layer, and also from a digital platform where you're able to make those changes on the glass rather than customizing. The motto is you customize less, you configure more. And that would help you not only to upgrade, but that will help you to reduce risk, as I show you in my slides that are to come. From an application layer, so that is the vision that we have. We want to make sure that the customers also have the similar kind of vision where they can understand what 9.2.5 offers, where it is to help them to protect their business. It is to help them to make sure that their business is agile from a legal and a statutory standpoint. It helps them to grow in terms of where they need to make any changes, they get the changes in the system rather than customizing it. We have a dedicated team that monitors all these changes, and we deliver these updates to support your areas. Our biggest investment has been to improve your business in the technology and the digital space. We get a ton of requests from all of you, and we try to make sure that we get to that as and when we can. Automation, configuration, simplification, they are a very good thing to have, but that is something that we are trying to do as much as we can. Some of the key important things that we want to future-proof your business, as Anne mentioned in her slides, was joint venture management. The other thing which we want to do is project status inquiry. One of the other important things is, of course, having landing pages. When any user logs into JDE, he or she understands based on their role what they need to do, what they want to monitor. It could be a procurement manager. They need to monitor what are the open purchase orders, where are the orders coming from, what are the different business units that are going beyond budget for procurement, taking relevant actions where they need to. So, of course, all this is in a nutshell provided by those landing pages. A leasing manager would need to know what's happening to their leases, where they need to take action for all those leases in case a lease is expiring. They need to be notified. So having everything on a single page, on a single screen, enables those people to understand what they need to do at a particular point of time. They don't need to be running around 5 different screens, making sure where are my leases, whether they have expired, whether I have contacted, whether I need to contact them, all that. It is available on a single screen right in front of them. Another important thing which drives digital transformation is a financial close. And did put it very wonderfully in terms of where the things can be used, and that is exactly what we want to help not only you but your team in terms of making sure that you always have the tool set ready to go through whenever these type of activities happen. And this will happen at least 12 times in a year. You need to be doing you need to be doing a monthly close for all your ledgers, be it from an accounts receivable perspective, be it from an accounts payable perspective, be it from having all your open purchase orders, commitment ledgers perspective. All those things need to be tied up together. Inventory and GL play a very critical role in terms of integrity reports. And that's where the bulk of integrity happens, because either the reports are not running fine or there's an issue. So all those things need to be notified beforehand and in the right way using the tools available in the system. One of them is notifications. The other one is orchestrator, where you can orchestrate these different things to making sure that these things run in the fashion that you want to. All this helps you out to build a financial close which is much more resilient, confident, and also error-free. And that is what you want to do. Again, digital investment is something which is very key for us and for you. Helps you to do a lot of things over the glass. Rather than doing a change, involving in a change, making sure that the change works, and then re-engineering the whole process, you could do the same thing using the digital tools. Some of them are personalization form. Some of them, other things are form extension. You can get certain things on the glass change straight away without even managing to make that change on a software development lifecycle. You don't have to go through those approval processes for making those changes, because you are able to do the change right in front of you, right on the screen, right in the production environment. And that is something which is more classy to do, rather than going through a series of approvals, series of testing, which requires you to do all those changes. I'm saying that because there's been a lot of changes which we want to make sure that people are able to make sure that the business processes run as and when they need to run, not when they need to run 6 months down the line. So it helps you to drive those changes quickly, helps you to adapt to something which is more coming up in terms of a future, and making sure that you're ready with all the resources as soon as possible. The other changes that I would love to do, which I would love to tell you, is of course a keyword search. Like the search helps us to search many different things on the glass straight away. It is the most powerful tool, where it helps you to find out few things which you would not be able to find out using a normal, which you might not be even aware of at the first place. Like, for example, if I want to find out my customers, I can find out where the customers are, what the applications are, where the data is, all in a single screen, and make those changes or go through those things as and when I want to. The other important thing is extensions, form extensions. Changing certain things on the form is earlier was a very difficult thing. Now it's as simple as you're changing a data. You will be able to make those changes, those extensions so quickly, and adapt to your own accounts payable, accounts receivable processes, that it drives all those things in a nice and a smart way. Notifications, and did put right nicely that notifications are pre-built, but you can definitely build your own if you want to have something which suits your business process. Get them on the scheduler, get them on the orchestrator, connect them through and through all the tools to bring in more mobility for you. You can design your own mobile applications, have a cluster of all different things that your business people would be required to do. That would enable you to drive synergies in not only using the software, but also increase the user experience for your users as well. They would be more interested in using the tool in a way that helps them out to drive business synergies. Connect different applications. Orchestrator is here to help out any different thing that you want to connect in the external world, making sure JDE gets the data, or JDE is able to send the data to that system. It works both ways. It works on bulk load. It works in a very smart way now, where you can even design your own process or create an orchestrator while you're running a process. Say, for example, you're running a sales order. You're creating a sales order from start to finish. Start the button which says start a process. The orchestrator will record all those different steps and then create an orchestrator behind the scenes. And then you are not manufacturing the orchestrator. It's already getting created as you're running through the process. How simple is that? And that is what we call as a citizen developer, where, where the end users, without having any technical knowledge, are able to do these things in a very more smart way. How cool is that? One of the key drivers for 9.2 is the decustomization report. This report enables you to run all your custom objects, all your P55s, all your R56, all your T57s, all of those into these world, and making sure, try to get something which will tell you, you could leverage some of the digital tools, you could leverage these things to drive that customization out of the window. That way, you're reducing your maintenance bill. That way, You're reducing it from a customization point of view. You're configuring more, you're driving synergies, and it helps you to grow faster in terms of speeding up your processes, making sure that your investments are well intact, and you're making use of that more rather than customizing the whole system. Again, a very smart tool. I wish if you need more help, call me. Getting onto 9.2 alone gets you onto the smart way. Why? It helps you to run systems in a more efficient manner. It helps you to reduce risk. It helps you to innovate more. It helps you to get more proactive. You're in JDE, you're in Oracle support. If you have an issue with 9.2, of course, it's a 10-year roadmap now. It's gone from 2031 to 2032. Plus, we have increased our support in a way where support team can help you out right at the front instead of an issue happening at the after the issue. So it's not a postmortem support, it's a proactive support. If you are trying to do something innovative, call us. We are there to help you out. If there is anything that helps that you need help, we are there to help you. That way, you're reducing risk in terms of anything that you could do wrong in the system, get you an advantage where you can do certain processes faster than where the business is changing so that you are able to drive synergies. And of course, your business is ready to do something else and you're able to focus on something more future. Some of our customers, in terms of where and how they're using JDE in a smart way on your screen, many of them have started getting synergies in terms of getting reduced business processes intervention. They're making good amount of leaps and bounds in terms of their bottom line and also getting synergies in certain processes, like for example, salt seasoning. They've automated using the orchestrator, completely using the orchestrator. It's a salt manufacturing company. Glensby and Mark, they've been using this automation in their heavy industries, in their heavy engineering divisions, and they have been getting benefits in terms of where they could smartly automate these processes. They're not taking away any of jobs, but they are making sure that the people can be utilized somewhere else. At the same time, the system is running in an efficient manner what it needs to do. There are many more examples on Learn JDE. I wish you can go there and have a look. Thank you. Over to you, Umang.
Thanks, Kalpesh. My name is Umang Varma. I run a team of OCI architects, which specialize in helping you, consulting you on moving applications workloads over to OCI, application workloads like JDE, EBS, EBL, etc. So now let's look at a few reasons for why you should be running your JDE Edwards and Oracle Cloud infrastructure. The first thing is reducing cost. You can exit your costly data center investments, focus on your core business, and consolidate your infrastructure by running your entire JDE workloads over onto OCI. Here, the key benefit is you pay only for what you use. So if you have 4 environments and you use the training and test environments only a few days in a year, you just pay for what you use. Second is to reduce risk. So with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, you can rest assured that you're always on the latest versions of the database, the middleware, etc. And the end-to-end security is provided by Oracle. So you can rest assured that you have the latest security and you are protected against technological obsolescence. Third reason is agility, right? So you can reduce your maintenance and run costs. You can leverage technologies like Oracle Autonomous Database to automate your entire database patching, tuning, etc. You can spin up JDE Edwards trial systems in a few minutes. We've had customers who need a training instance of JDE for 20 days in a year. Now, rather than dedicating hardware for it, you could spin up a JDE instance for training on OCI in a few minutes, use that and shut it down when you don't need it, right? And you pay only for what you use. You can scale up and down very, very quickly. And the most exciting and one of the areas where I'm most interested in is putting JDE at the heart of your entire innovation. So you could leverage things like APIs, things like bots, things like IoT, blockchain, etc., which are available on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and use your JDE to leverage such technologies and innovate. And that's one of the biggest reasons why you might want to look at deploying your JDE on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. A quick word on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This is the only cloud vendor where you get end-to-end SLAs on availability, performance, and manageability. So while all cloud vendors will offer you availability SLAs, but we're the only one who offer you availability, performance, and manageability SLAs. And you're welcome to go to the Oracle Cloud website and take a look at these SLAs for yourself. So how can you get started? So to dip your toes, you could just start with your dev, test, training instances first, move them to OCI, see what your experience is, and then start moving some of your production workloads. Or you could move your disaster recovery workload over to OCI. Many of our customers are comfortable moving the entire production on OCI. In fact, we've got, thanks to Ndevr, many born in the cloud, new JDE customers who start the journey with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure itself. Or you could do your backup and restore from OCI. Or one of the more interesting use cases I've seen is customers are using JDE on-prem, but they are pushing the reporting databases onto OCI and running the reporting of multiple heterogeneous systems, including JDE, off OCI, right? And using that to get familiar with OCI and then start moving their production workloads. So there are multiple ways in which you can start your cloud journey with JDE. So there is a lot of help available to you to get to start your journey of JDE on OCI. There are templatized solution guides available where there are reference architectures. These reference architectures are optimized for multiple situations. You might need high availability or DR or high security. You might be operating in a multi-region. You need multi-region support, etc. Right? So these templatized solutions are available to you that you could leverage. These are certified by JDE to work on OCI, and these are validated with every JDE release. Also, these implementation guides make sure that implementations are consistent, and it also helps us streamline the support that's offered to all customers. So in a sense, that de-risks your entire implementation of JDE on OCI. For any additional information, as Anne mentioned, you could go to Learn JDE. It's a one-stop shop for a lot of information available around JDE and how you can run JDE on OCI. There are FAQs. There's a lot of help documentation available. So those of you who want to try this out on yourself, you could go to the oracle.com lift and shift lab. This is where there are a couple of labs where you can set up an OCI infrastructure by yourself, install JDE there, and play around with the environment. So till now, you've seen a few reasons for moving your JDE workload over on OCI. You've seen the benefits, and you've seen how you can get started. There are also a lot of exciting commercial benefits for you to start your journey on OCI. So this is a recent announcement by Oracle for Oracle Support Reports, where if you spend $1 on OCI, you get 25 cents back as support credits that you could leverage to offset your existing on-prem support payments, right? So for example, you buy $100, say $1,000 worth of OCI to run your JDE, you get $250 back, which is 25%, and that you can offset against your annual tech support fees that you pay to Oracle. And it is, interestingly, if you are an unlimited licensing agreement customer, so if you were you have a tech ULA with Oracle, your eligibility is for 33%. So 33 cents on the dollar you get back as offset against your annual support rewards, against your annual support payments. There are no overages. So if you are contracted for, say, $1,000 in a year and you end up spending $1,500, that additional $500 is also eligible for support rewards. So thank you so much, and over to Barry.
Okay. Thank you, Umang. I'm going to run through some of the process of getting from JDE on-premise to JDE on OCI Cloud. High level, there are two approaches. Firstly, we've got lift and shift. And I just want to point out this is a conceptual lift and shift, where we only take the JDE software and data, not the underlying instances. This approach can be used with any recent version of JDE tools and apps. Secondly, there's the move and improve approach. This includes a potential upgrade of JDE improvements to any of the underlying server architecture, as well as platform upgrades to ensure that you're on the latest and greatest of all of the components. In the old days, moving to OCI was a very manual process. We would typically use Terraform to define a plan, create all the instances, then do a JDE install, do a database install, and migrate the data from on-prem to the cloud with a bit of SQL magic to update things like server names and configuration. This would typically take 2 to 3 weeks from start to finish, which was seen as a rather large amount of time for the process. Oracle have now released two tools that handle a lot of the heavy lifting in the process. Firstly, they're Terraform scripts related to the reference architecture that Umang has mentioned. So these are best practice architectures for deploying JD Edwards in the cloud. And then there's the Oracle migration tool. This is a piece of software that's installed via the JD Edwards configuration or change assistant that is used to export data and configuration from on-prem in preparation to move to the cloud. So the migration tool is supported on applications 9.1 or 9.2. It's supported on tools 9201, and it supports SQL Server and Oracle Database. When the tools run, it runs one path code at a time. Using this process, we can generally get a system up and running ready for testing within 2 to 3 days. If you're on a platform other than Oracle or SQL, we would then continue to use the manual process. Oracle have a number of tools we could use for the data migration, such as Golden Gate and Oracle Data Integrator, as well as any third-party ETL type tools to get the data from your on-prem database to the cloud. Just got a diagram showing the high-level process. So on the left, we start off with the JDE on-premise. We install the cloud migration utilities, which we run to extract the data from the deployment server, and we run SQL scripts against your database to extract the shared data schemas, object librarian, data dictionary, central objects, and obviously the data and control tables for the environment we're exporting. We'll use the automated tools within OCI to create the instances and deploy JDE for the environment we're deploying, move to the cloud, and then use the utilities to import the data and configuration. If in this scenario, or this scenario is an upgrade scenario, so we're coming from say a client at 9.1, we would then do a simplified upgrade in the cloud, and we would end up on the right-hand side with JD Edwards 9.2, all the customers' modifications, code current on the latest tools release. Just a similar process showing a new install. Again, the reference implementation scripts would be run via Terraform. One-click provisioning would use the Terraform configuration and deploy JDE to it. And again, here we would end up with 9.2 code current and ready for configuration and use by the client. Some configurations we've run into of considerations and challenges around moving to the cloud. Firstly, data volumes and data transfers. This relates to the amount of data that's exported from the on-prem system for copying up to the cloud. We've found that for small transfers, the Oracle site-to-site VPN is generally suitable. Anything up to a couple of hundred gig is fine. For larger volumes, we suggest you look at Oracle Fast Connect, which is available in 1 or 10 gigabit flavors. If you have massive volumes of data, Oracle have the data transfer service, which is where effectively you ship portable hard drives to Oracle, who will then load it up in object storage and allow you to transfer it to your database. This process takes about a week. Just on this, one of our recommendations is before you look at migrating to the cloud, you'd look at data archiving or data purging, just to reduce the volume of data. Secondly is any non-JD objects on your servers or in your database, things like RPG if you're on an OS400, any custom stored procedures in your database, or any extract or scripting type activities on the server. If you have these, they will have to be manually transferred to the cloud, since the migration tool is not aware of them. Next, we move on to JDE version. This relates to the version of JDE that you're running on-prem. And again, here, there are a number of options. We could do a pure lift and shift where you stay on the current release, whether that's 9.1 or 9.2. Obviously, if you're on 9.1 and you go with this flavor of lift and shift, you miss out on all of the exciting 9.2 features Anne and Umang and Kalpesh have mentioned. Secondly, if you're on older release, for example 9.1, we can lift and shift to the cloud and then run a traditional upgrade in the cloud to bring you up to 9.2 in the cloud. And finally, there's a move and improve option with a simple upgrade to 9.2. This again will leave you at 9.2 code current with the latest tools release. Next thing to consider are any interfaces you have with third-party systems that may be systems and interfaces that may be impacted with the change to server names, network, any access control, and any security changes that arise with the move to the cloud. There might be some configuration changes related to these. Next one, and this might sound a bit peculiar, but check and verify whether you have access to your on-prem JDE system. We've done a couple of migrations to the cloud where we didn't have direct access to JD Edwards, and this significantly delayed the process where we had to go back to the support vendor and request additional information or improvements. So small point, but it's important. And the final consideration is you do not have to move everything to the cloud at the same time. As Umang mentioned, we can start off with non-production workloads, disaster recovery reporting, etc. Now that we've gone through the process, if you'd like to get a look and feel for what JD Edwards looks like in the cloud, Oracle have released what they call JD Trial Edition. If you're familiar with the old Demo Journey standalone version of JD Edwards, JD Trial in the cloud is the modern cloud-based equivalent. It is very easy to set up. It can be done end-to-end in probably 40 minutes to an hour. You start off creating a cloud account if you don't already have one. This gives you a 30-day trial to OCI. You would create a single instance in the cloud, download and deploy the trial edition from the Oracle Marketplace. This will automatically provision a JD Edwards enterprise server, database server, web server, AIS server, ADF server, Orchestrator Studio, and BIP Publisher. So this will enable you to get a really good end-to-end feel for JD Edwards in the cloud. Just to note on that, it does not deploy a deployment server or server manager console, which means the trial edition cannot be patched and it cannot be used sort of as a seed into the live edition. But it certainly does enable you to get a good feel for the cloud. Together with the cloud account, Oracle have now released a number of resources that are free forever. So you get 2 autonomous databases, you get a number of compute instances, you get a fair amount of storage, load balancing, networking resources, and some monitoring tools. So again here, this you are free to consume and use for as long as you want to after your 30-day trial has expired. Oracle have 2 data centers in Australia now. Started off with Sydney. Melbourne is the newer of the 2. A massive benefit here is that your disaster recovery stays within Australia. So if you have any data sovereignty issues, they are addressed by this. So as an example, using Oracle Database and Oracle Data Guard, we could replicate from one data center to the other in real time. And when and if the primary data center goes down, we activate the secondary data center. All of this data is replicated over the Oracle Cloud backbone, not your network. Excuse me. So there are no additional data ingress or egress charges incurred for this. Another area where the cloud is really flexible and beneficial to a JD install is the elasticity of it. Every organization has different workloads through the course of a week, a month, a year, etc. And within the cloud, we're able to spin up and shut down instances as required to meet these varying demands. Simple example, we could have batch servers that are shut down other than at month end. At month end, they're brought up, they handle the month end processing, and then shut down again. This can all be scripted. OCI provides a very flexible suite of scripting tools. There's command line interfaces and SDKs for most modern programming languages. So a lot of this can be automated. OCI has now launched what they call flexible shapes when it comes to instances. This is where you can define a number of CPUs and the amount of RAM on an instance, and these can be changed dynamically. Yeah, the instance does need a restart, but if you're expecting a high workload, you increase the number of CPUs and RAM and you restart the instance and it's available with the additional resources. One of the more recent launches are what are called burstable instances. This is where you subscribe to either 12.5 or 50% of a CPU. Well, that doesn't have to be one CPU, it could be up to 64 CPUs. You are then charged for the percentage that you subscribe to, and when the load spikes, the availability of that CPU will spike up to 100% for a short period of time. So you charge for the lesser amount, but the CPU has the ability to spike up. This is particularly useful for development workloads. So you can specify really low-level dev servers, and as your users are testing and developing, it'll spike up to handle any short-term load. The Oracle JDE Edwards now supports autonomous database. This also supports flexibility and elasticity based on workload. Just a note here that autonomous database is only available for only certified for JDE on dedicated Exadata servers. Another recent launch from Oracle is the support of JDE in Docker containers and the Oracle Kubernetes engine. And this introduces a new level of automated scaling where OCI will automatically scale up resources to handle demand on the fly. Essentially, you configure an elastic unit, which is made up of a web server and an enterprise server. These two work together, and through configuration, the system will spin these up and shut them down as it deems necessary. So the important takeaway here is you pay for what you use. So you don't have to specify massive boxes that sit idle for most of the time, just to cater for periodic workloads. So we found using OCI infrastructure is just incredibly flexible to our clients. We've come across a misconception where the client thought that it was only able to use the Oracle database, and this is completely untrue. We can run any workload in Oracle Cloud. It'll run Linux, Windows OSs, it'll run SQL, it'll run Oracle database. Really, whatever you want to run can be run in the cloud. OCI make a wide variety of instance shapes available, from one CPU all the way up to 160 CPUs, and from 1 GB of RAM all the way up to 2 TB of RAM. There are virtual instances running AMD, Intel, and now ARM chipsets, and there are bare metal instances too, which gives you dedicated access to the entire bare metal machine. I've mentioned Docker JDE and Docker containers. This is really exciting and introduces a new level of flexibility. Also, with all this flexibility, it is a really cost-effective solution. You get an enterprise-level data center in the cloud. Oracle develop, maintain, and look after the infrastructure. OCI, through OCI backup policies, backup is automated. You could set up daily, weekly, or monthly backups, and then those just, once they're scheduled, they just work, which is a lot easier than doing this all yourself. And once again, shut down what you're using, what you're not using, and realize the cost savings. And remember the Oracle free tier. I encourage you to set up an account and give it a try. One of our recent projects was a move for Select Harvest from AWS to Oracle Cloud. The final result for them was total data sovereignty and disaster recovery within the Australian continent. We've done a recovery exercise where we were able to fail over to the alternate data center within 20 minutes with no loss of data. So this was seen as a huge success for them. And back to Sasha.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry, and Anne, Kalpesh, and Umang. Just while we wait for any questions to come through, I'm just going to give you a little reminder as to where you can find the additional resources. So we've created a JDE Edwards playlist on YouTube. So if you go to tiny.1/JDE demos, you can also have a look at any of our other playlists by going to tiny.1/Ndevr. So we've got other playlists there from Reports Now for Oracle Cloud and for Oracle Field Service Cloud, as well as for JDE and some of the other things that we do, but those will be the ones you'd be interested in. Also, learnjde.com. It is just as both and as everyone has presented out today, it's an incredible resource full of a lot of information with demonstrations, articles, just a huge depth of information there. And oracle.com, you can find their lift and shift lab there. Now, I'm just going to run very quickly through some of the questions that we've had and direct those to our panel. So the very first question I've got here, it says, do we really need to upgrade before we shift to the cloud? So that one I'm going to put to Barry.
Thanks, Asha. Absolutely not. As I mentioned, certainly if you're on 9.1 and 9.2, you don't have to. If you're on an older release, there may be issues with support for the underlying operating systems and databases, because Oracle only certify the more recent ones in the cloud, so we would need to look at that. But if you're on 9.1 or 9.2, absolutely, we could do a lift and shift, and you can continue to run the version that you currently know and love. I certainly would encourage everyone to upgrade to 9.2, and a move to the cloud is the ideal time to do it.
Thanks, Barry. The next question I've got, this is something that always comes up. What happens to my bill if I want to scale down? So does auto scaling of my cloud instance automatically reduce my monthly invoice if I use less? That one probably is for Umang, I'd say.
Sure, Satya. So the short answer is yes. Look, if you're on an annual universal credits or a monthly universal credits, you're billed in advance with a 12-month minimum and debited monthly based on your actual usage. So if you've used 50% of the resources in a particular month, then you will be charged only for those 50% resources that you've consumed. So yes, auto scaling does reduce your monthly or yearly invoice.
So one of the questions, if you're moving from an older version of JDE, do you recommend a new implementation or migrate and change? Barry, that's probably for you.
Okay, that's a really deep question, and
it is a really big question. Yeah,
you need a lot more information. It would really come down to, how old. We'd need to look at what you would stand to gain by new implementation versus bring what you have, upgrade it, and then do some tidy up. So I think the short answer is it would take a little bit of further investigation to determine the best way forward. And I guess, just finally, it depends. When you say old release, how old?
I think in that instance, we will get in touch with the person asking directly. Another question I've got here, is there a time estimate for migration from AS400 to OCI?
The big variable with that one, I think, is the volume of data and how long it's going to take to migrate your data. There's no automated tool to go from AS400 to either Oracle or SQL, so we would have to look at implementing a tool such as Golden Gate or Data Integrator or any other ETL type tool. So that's the variable that's hard to answer. For the rest of it, it would be a standard provision via Terraform and then run the one-click install to install the JDE environment. So it really comes down to how long it will take to migrate the data.
Okay. Umang, I've got another one here for you. So how do I find out which products I'm using that will give me support rewards?
Look, almost every OCI service is eligible. The only thing that's exempted is consumption services and offerings that include third parties such as VMware, Microsoft, and Oracle Cloud Marketplace. They are not eligible. Apart from that, every other OCI service is eligible.
Okay. And I've got one for you. Do we need to take all the enhancements, or can I pick and choose?
Well, if you're doing, what do you call it, Barry, a move and improve, then you would automatically take all the enhancements because you would be going on to the latest release effectively. But otherwise, and beyond that, and if you do a straight lift and shift or whatever, all the enhancements are available as ESUs. So you can pick and choose which ones you need, which ones you want to implement.
Okay. Now, that's actually, we've run out of time today. We've already gone over our time limit, and I appreciate you all for joining us. What we will do is send out a link to a recording of this session, and we'll also get in touch with a couple of the question askers directly with a bit more detail about what the answer to their question. So thank you all for joining us today.